Hey everybody. How's you been doing? Thank you. I'm Mike Vogel. I run voice action development for Hasbro Studios, and we're really excited today to talk to you about G.I. Joe Renegades. We got Mr. Ted Biaselli from the his biggest credit is he's possibly the biggest geek in the room, and that's really saying something. He's Ted is a geek. Yes. Hates freak. We've got Jeff Klein over here, our executive producer. Jeff has been in the industry for 20 years, which makes you 24. And has worked on over 25 animated series, including Starship Troopers, Men in Black, Godzilla, Jackie Chan Adventures, Big Bad Rusty, Extreme Ghostbusters. Yeah. And we have our two-story editors, Henry Gilroy and Marty Eisenberg. Between the two of them, we worked on almost every show ever made, ever. Let's see. Transformers Animated, Danny Phantom, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The 99, which will be on the Hub this fall, Justice League Unlimited, Batman the Animated Series, Bionicle, and, Henry was story editor on a little show called Clone Wars. And at the end, we have Clement Sauvé. Is that right? Who is our designer on G.I. Joe Renegades. Clem started at DC Comics, has done a lot of design work, and most recently worked on Army of Two, the 40th Day. He's done toys for Iron Man, he worked on Transformers 2, and now he made G.I. Joe look pretty awesome. So, first, Ted, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Hub, Ted Biaselli?
I think I'm going to tell a little bit about the Hub. Okay. So Hasbro had this really brilliant epiphany. They looked over all this IP they had and they said, wouldn't it be great if we had a place where Transformers, G.I. Joe, all these great ideas and intellectual property that we had could live together. So they partnered with one of the biggest media corporations, which is Discovery Communications. And this fall, 10-10-10, easy to remember, we are launching the all-new kids network, The Hub. Even into when you're waiting in line. The woman running the Hub, our president and CEO, is a woman named Margaret Lesh. If that name is familiar to you, it's probably because you stayed till the end credits. Margaret Lesh was the executive on the original G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. She was the executive on Transformers Generation 1. She was the executive on Gem, My Little Pony, Visionaries, Inhumanoid. Margaret Lesh started Fox Kids, where she greenlit Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, Spider-Man, Power Rangers. She was involved in Muppet Babies. She stalked Jim Henson for 2 years to allow him to let her make Muppet Babies. Smurfs. Chances are, if you love it, Margaret Lesh has been involved in it. That's the woman running the network.
So everybody in this room, give her a big thanks for your time. Mike already introduced me as a geek. Mike is also a geek. I think there was a zygote at one point that split and it just grew up one into Mike Vogel and the other one into me. And that is a disturbing. And just so you know, the people that are responsible for these shows love these brands too. And the network is going to be a place where kids, a whole new generation, can experience new incarnations of these brands that transcend generational appeal. Some of you out there grew up with these brands and these shows like Joe and Transformers, and now you're old enough to be parents. And you want to watch these shows with your kids, you want to introduce them to the Joe and Transformers that you love, and yet it has to be something for them too, something that they can fully own on their own. And that's what this network is all about. It's about shows where you're going to love it, your kids are going to love it, and hopefully their kids are going to love it. So we've got new shows that are all part of our original Hasbro brand. We've got original projects that hopefully will live in the hearts of generations to come. We're pretty proud of this network, and we hope you are too.
So does anybody want to know what the new G.I. Joe is about?
Yes!
I thought maybe. Mr. Klein, executive producer, would you like to give us a little overview of G.I. Joe Renegades?
Wonderful. So when we first came to the G.I. Joe series, one of the amazing things about kind of Hasbro and their toy properties is they're not just toys, they actually have a deep, deep mythology behind them with a cast of potentially hundreds of characters and a lot of stuff that has happened over the course of decades. And all of us had different levels of knowledge of sort of, which some of us grew up with the 80s Joe, some of us are more 60s and 70s Joe. But we wanted to be able to appeal to all those people, plus, as Ted was saying, the next generation of Joe fans. So we decided we would kind of go back to the beginning, not the beginning of time, but the beginning of the present day beginning. So when we pick up the Joes, they haven't even met each other yet. Our Joes are a core group that are grunts, and they are recruited by somebody you may have heard of named Scarlet, who is a spook. And she is going to take them on what is supposed to be a very, very simple, somewhat innocuous mission involving a pharmaceutical lab that a very benevolent organization named Cobra owns. Cobra is kind of the Kraft Foods of our series. They seem very, very nice. They're all on the insurgents. But of course, things go horribly wrong very, very quickly, and all of a sudden our Joes are accused of a crime they didn't commit, and they're forced to go on the run, and we'll spend a good part of our series trying to both clear their names and take down the ultimate evil that we all know Cobra to be. So that's the core idea. So you're going to meet these Joes before they had their nicknames, before they necessarily were adept at some of the skills that they are now famous for. And one of the nice things is that our playing field is pretty focused on a core group of Joes and a core group of Cobraites and a core group of military. But the potential is there because we're around the globe to meet anyone from the G.I. Joe pantheon along the way. So it's pretty exciting for any Joe fan because it lets us kind of dig into wherever your favorite part was, we're probably going to go.
That's like we're Cobraites. Cobraites.
Clear that. Somebody clear that.
Shots on it.
Awesome. So what about design style? I mean, looking at this G.I. Joe as opposed to, there was the 80s G.I. Joe, there's been lots of incarnations, there was G.I. Joe Resolute, which everybody thinks is pretty awesome. What did we do with this G.I. Joe to make it different, unique, and stand out?
Well, I think Resolute was pretty amazing. I think it's sort of, at that time at least, it was definitely the highest level of kind of American anime you could do. So, quite honestly, we didn't want to go up against that. Similarly, I think when you think about potentially a military show, you think about Jack Kirby, you think about Steranko, but again, that stuff has kind of been, I don't want to say played out, but there are a lot of homages to that style in the last number of years with other shows. So we really wanted to try to find something that was specific to us. And for whatever reason, what I kept coming back around to was American illustration art from the 50s and 60s, the McGuire's, the Guinnesses, the Bama's, the stuff that you didn't need to have everything detailed. There were shadows on the edges. There's always a light source showing you kind of where your eye was supposed to go, and no matter what was going on in that picture, it could have been, dope slaves tied up or whatever. It was actually very beautiful. It was beautiful because it was so painterly. And the idea there's always like something else going on behind the scenes. There's always a sense that there was more to the story than we were seeing in just that painting. So that's really where we started from. So then it's sort of like, all right, well, how do you take that idea and turn it into a look for the show that you can actually replicate at least 26 times, hopefully 100 times over the course of a number of years? And we started where all TV starts with characters. And so even from a design standpoint, at least when I started from a place of character. So I started asking some of the other designers that I work with that I have a lot of respect for, who out there should be doing G.I. Joe? And quite honestly, Clem, you have a job because of Jose Lopez. So I don't know if you want to buy him a car or something, but Clem is actually a Canadian artist. I don't know if you should check out his website after this panel, but I called you, having seen a lot of your stuff, and said, I'd love you to do this. Here's what I'm thinking. What does that mean to you? And you came back first pass on stuff that was gorgeous. So do you want to talk a little bit just about kind of how you took the American illustration concept and turned it into what our characters became?
Yeah, basically.
Or do you want to do something else's life?
Yeah, I try to keep it very. I would say the word been used. It was classy. I don't know if I would qualify it as that, but it's very simple. Try to keep it elegant. Try to boil it down to the essence of the characters. And especially now, I mean, the world has evolved a bit since the 80s, and technology doesn't look the same. Clothing might not look the same. Everybody's aware of